We're live in New York City for 3 days. Adam Gase of the Jets is joining us later on in hour number 3, but I turn to my right now, and it is a joy to see you here, sir, because I love the show, as I say all the time, that you do with your colleagues on Good Morning Football. Peter Schrager here. Good to see you, buddy.
Rich, it's such a thrill to be here, honestly.
No,
it's
I was
cool.
saying, too, and I will say this to start our interview, what I say to you off camera, and I'll say it to you here on this show. When we launched the NFL Network in 2003, and I was doing NFL Total Access for all those years up to 2011 when the lockout caused me to lose all of my hair. So we're always thinking there has to be at some point another show for which the network is known, or another tent pole.
Yeah.
And Good Morning Football is that, sir.
That's cool. And I think the
It
fact
is
that we're
that.
in New York and it's on the East Coast and coaches and GMs are looking for something to talk football in the morning.
Right.
We're almost the wallpaper of the NFL in the morning, which is a huge honor. It's cool.
Do you hear that a lot?
Yeah, it's just that it's on. Not necessarily I'm watching, but it's on in my office. And I'm
Right.
like, all right, cool. So if that's the case, we'll take it.
Well, I mean, if I didn't have an ego, because as you guys know, I don't have an ego. Even though,
Very true.
what's the name of the show? What's the name
Rich
of the
Eisen
show?
show.
Okay. We're in London, doing the London game, the Eagles versus the Jaguars. Peter, you were part of that broadcast, and there's Peter, and Good Morning Football crew was there as well. You were there, and Kay Adams was there when we're going through the interview process with the Jacksonville staff, and the players all come in. They walk right past me. Right past
This is not
Irv.
true.
This is a
This
total
is
true
not
story.
true.
And went right up to Peter and Kay, talking about they love their show. And I'm like, wow. I mean, like, I'm on the total pay no mind list.
It's not true. It's not true.
Wow.
It's the total true.
It's a cool deal, though, and I'll tell you, we were in the production meeting, and we're sitting with Rich, and it's Rich, it's Mooch, it's Irv, and in comes Doug Marrone, and he kind of blew me off because I had talked negatively about the Jaguars earlier in the week,
Okay.
and then I had to give him the hug and the whole thing. But
Well, he was in a miserable mood.
it wasn't a good
He
time.
was in an absolute miserable mood. And that was halfway through the season and the day before half of his secondary went out at night and blew off apparently some like 20,000-pound tab.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
That was
I remember that.
pre-night out in London,
Yeah,
yes.
that was the 20,000 pounds led to the 2-ton gorilla.
Yes.
That was part of the whole Jaguar season. All right, let's get into you're going to be part of the third day of the draft.
Yeah.
On the NFL Network. It's going to be me, you, DJ, and Charles Davis out there for day number 3. Night 1.
Okay.
Do you know a single person at all in the NFL who thinks Kyler Murray is not going number 1 overall to the Arizona Cardinals?
I do not. I had one person at the league meetings who is not a NFL employee, but is pretty connected in things.
Okay.
Pulled me aside and said, "You've been putting all your eggs in this Kyler Murray to Arizona basket. I'd hold off." And this guy knows things. And then I asked around. They're like, "No, he's wrong. No, he's going number 1." So someone has been saying, just hold off.
What was the hold off theory? Did you
The hold off theory being that there might be some mega trade to get up to number 1 to Arizona, and another team being in the works. We have a former colleague who has 3 first-round picks, 4th, 24th, and 27th, and he's the general manager. That's the only team I could imagine that would have the draft capital to even have the Cardinals to consider it. But from everything I've heard, everyone I've spoken to, Kingsbury is in love with Kyler Murray, and there's a real relationship there.
So, I mean, well, the relationship is what? That he recruited him, tried to get him to Texas Tech. They share an agent. I mean, am I
Yeah,
missing
when he was a
anything here, or-
sophomore in high school, Kingsbury was recruiting him as if he was the next Joe Montana. Then again, when he's transferring from Texas A&M, Kingsbury went again and recruited him. Very close friends with the father, Kevin Murray, who's Kyler's dad and is this quarterback guru. Kingsbury has known Murray for close to 8 years. You put that all in process here as far as high school, college, and now he has an opportunity to take the job and takes the number 1 pick, maybe for a reason. Maybe it was because he thought Kyler Murray might be available to be his quarterback.
So now we assume that's happening, and that's the foregone conclusion, despite the guy
One
who knows
guy,
things who's not
a
involved in the
connected
NFL.
guy.
Connected guy in the NFL.
Not a coach or GM or league employee. So think about the other world that we work in. A lot of time when you have sources, sometimes they
Yes.
come from the team side. The other
Yes.
time they come from the agent side. So a prominent NFL agent who I never
Well,
leave.
their lips were moving. So I mean, it was March. Their lips were moving.
Put this one in my head and it played tricks with me because I've been all in on, hey, Murray's number 1. Let's talk about number 2.
But that's the only human being you've come across. I have not come across a single human being since we left the combine that's
hard
given
to
me a
find.
hold your horses. Not a single one. There's not a single one.
I'd be lying if I said I have also. And there has not been a single person, a team employee anywhere around the league who has said anything but Murray to the Cardinals. And the second part being, all right, let's talk about where Rosen goes. That's where the conversation is. And that, as I wrote in my mock draft that's up at NFL.com, I don't know that answer. And I don't know where that's going to go and whether it's going to happen day one when you guys are just getting up there and it's Thursday night, April 25th on NFL Network,
It's got to.
If it happens in the next couple of weeks.
If it happens, here's the thing, because we've had this conversation before on the show, and I'm glad that you're here to have it now. Peter Schrager of Good Morning Football here on the Rich Eisen Show from New York City, is that it's got to happen the night of the draft. It's got to happen the night of the draft. It cannot happen, say, the same way that the Eagles moved up to number 2, and we were all wondering they're coming up for Wentz or Goff, or they're cool with whoever the Rams take first. And it's not the same as getting up there, and it's knowing that you're trading for RG3, the famed Washington, giving Les Snead the entirety of his future earnings, right? It's not the same thing because there was luck in front. This is not the same thing because Arizona needs to know when they make this trade,
absolutely right,
that Kyler Murray is healthy, is walking the planet with 2 good legs, with 2 good arms that work. I'm serious.
And doesn't get cold feet, and doesn't a week before the draft say, baseball's my love.
Well, that would be, by the way.
That's where I'm saying.
That would make the AAF look like a miniseries, like a one-act play. Dude,
I don't even want to put that into the ether.
Possible?
If you're Arizona, you need to take
everything,
all precautions.
Correct. So they have to know that when they push the Rosen trade button, Murray is there for the taking.
He's in your pocket.
Literally, when Roger Goodell puts the Cardinals on the clock in Nashville on the last Thursday of this month, they have to place a phone call to Kyler Murray, and Steve Keim and Michael Bidwell and Cliff Kingsbury have to hear his voice. They probably want to FaceTime him. They want to see him and the voice come out of his mouth and say, take a nice wide shot of you, Kyler. Do a jumping jack, Kyler. Like, I'm serious.
I can't confirm that he'll be at the draft, but it would be really reassuring if you're the Cardinals if he is. You see him in the human flesh. He's on TV.
I'm serious.
He's in a suit. He's going to the NFL, and he's healthy, and he's good. And if he starts saying, maybe I'm going to be at home, then you start getting wishy-washy. I want to know you're all in, and you're healthy, and you're good.
Before we trade Josh Rosen.
Because then you need to have that in your back pocket.
Well, that's right. Keim is going to have it in his top right drawer, top left drawer, ready to pull out once they choose Kyler Murray, and then the trade will be announced as to where Josh Rosen goes because they need those draft picks that night or Friday night. They need to get that thing done on the spot. And right now, even if another team comes out right now and says, I'll give you my one, they can't take it right now.
Agreed.
Because that would leave them with no quarterbacks if Kyler Murray decides to just say, I'm not coming.
Absolutely.
I don't want to come, or whatever thing that's the number of times, Peter Schrager, Good Morning Football here on the show, the number of times, again, that we've gone through this process covering the draft that we would hear, again, this is my 15th draft I'm doing for the NFL Network. Coming up this 15. And the number of times that we would get grief for showing a player on the phone, because that tips the pick.
Yeah, sure.
The player, the player's about to go. So Roger Goodell is like, we're not going to show the players on the phone. And people are going to be like, well, why don't you show players on the phone?
We want the phone.
We want to see it. Give us a phone. We want phone.
I want phone.
And the answer is, and then the question invariably comes, is like, why must coaches call the player to say we're taking you? Why must they do that? Why is that necessary? And the answer I get back from every talent evaluator and coach and owner or general manager in this league is we need to know they're alive.
Yeah.
And they're not joking.
Yeah.
Like literally like Abe Vigoda on Letterman, come out, fog up a mirror.
But doesn't that sound insane?
But you have to. It's for real. You have to know the player that you are drafting is a functioning human being on the planet, and it's the same person you want to draft.
And I don't want to go down a negative road here, but last year, the Josh Allen thing happens the morning of the draft. Laramie Tunzel's thing happened. Things happen at the draft. So Kyler Murray, everything that we know is all buttoned up. It's great. But you never want to trade without a backup plan, because when you mention trading up for Jared Goff, well, if Goff, something crazy happened, we'll take Wentz. If we trade up to get Robert Griffin, okay, well, something else happens. There's, all these other quarterbacks in this draft. If they are taking that first pick, it is Kyler Murray. They are not taking Haskins or Locke.
Right.
It is all in on Murray. So it has to be that guy. And there is no real backup plan. That's why you keep Rosen until then.
So what are you hearing about the Rosen market? I mean, our colleague Joe Klatt from Fox and
dropped
yours from
dropped
Fox.
a bomb.
I know, and he's going to be on night 2 of the NFL Network draft coverage from Nashville. he said Chargers, Patriots, Giants are
He
in.
named names.
Are you
And
hearing
I'll
the
say
same
something
thing?
about Joel. People say, well, he's not an NFL insider. Joel called just about every one of Josh Rosen's big games in the Pac-12 for Fox. He called all of Kyler Murray's big games for the Big 12 for Fox. Joel has sources too. So when he said that, I followed up with him. He said, look, it happened, whatever I reported, some of those calls may have just been inquiries, and they may have happened before free agency, which leads me to the Chargers. They signed Tyrod Taylor. Does that mean they're,
Come on, I mean Baker Mayfield is the two words you need to hear about him in terms of where you might go. I mean that's what I said. When we heard after Clad, I'm like, poor Tyrod Taylor. I mean, or is it? It is Tyrod.
I think it's
right?
Tyrod now.
Tyrod now. Poor Tyrod Taylor. I mean, he got Baker
Just
Mayfield, and now
signed.
he could possibly get Rosen in Los Angeles. But it makes sense. It makes sense that he's a local kid.
Yeah.
It certainly makes sense here in New York City. It makes sense. Obviously, New England at some point is going to have to get that next Garoppolo, right?
Yes.
And obviously Rosen would be a perfect opportunity to do something like that.
And all of those teams have interesting things they can offer. So the Giants might be desperate for a quarterback, and you could say 6 or 17. They have an early second-round pick. The Patriots have the last pick of the first round. The Chargers have the 28th pick. That seems to be about the market, somewhere in that 20 to 38 range as far as overall picks for what Josh Rosen is. You already have him 1 year into the NFL, and the key thing with Rosen, which has been mentioned a few times, the Cardinals paid him so much guaranteed money up front. He's making about an average of $3 million a year for the next 3 years. So that you think about Russell Wilson's going to be asking. You think about what somebody $3 million a year for a potential starting quarterback is a bargain. And from everyone I talked to in Arizona, right down to Steve Wilkes, who I spoke with at the end of the season and also at the combine, not a bad word to say about Josh Rosen. All those things before the draft about him possibly being a petulant kid. No, he was a mature professional.
We all didn't
loved
buy
him.
into that.
Yeah, we loved
we were all on the Rosen train last year at the draft. So if the Giants flip their second round choice at the top of Friday night for Rosen and choose 2 defensive studs in the first round and then come back to New York, can Gettleman basically say, how do you like me
Can he
now to
breathe?
Giants
Yeah.
fans right now?
Think about it.
I mean,
Jabril Peppers, who
Right.
I think is a very good future. And I think when I spoke with Gettleman at the NFL league meetings, he was super high on Jabril. You get 2 defensive studs. Say you end up with Ed Oliver and one of the Clemson kids off the edge, and you get Golden Tate, and you're all right with a quarterback.
You in your mock draft had Oliver going 4th to the Raiders. I don't
Really
think he
high on
gets-
Oliver.
I don't think he gets out of the top 5. I really
This
don't.
guy,
I think the Jets might even take him. 2
this
or 3.
guy is the one that no one's talking about, Rich, maybe besides you and I. That
Well, people talk. Aaron Donald is the name that are mentioned with him. That's mentioned with him.
Quinnen Williams might go before him because he's this great kid, but Quinnen Williams comes from a body size that is Ndamukong Suh, Gerald McCoy. Ed Oliver is a clone of Aaron Donald's body. I'm not saying he's Aaron Donald, but if you want to talk about the next wave
Yeah.
and how everyone's looking for the next Tyreek Hill at receiver, they're looking for the next Aaron Donald. It's not Quinnen Williams. It's Ed Oliver.
So if the Giants don't pull the trade for Rosen in your mock draft, you have them Drew Lock. I
Yeah.
gave the wrong name and Daniel Jones before from Duke. Drew Lock before Dwayne Haskins. What gives you that idea?
There are a few people that I talk to in the league that do quarterbacks that I trust who and a lot of them are saying Locke over Haskins on some boards. And that might drive Ohio State fans crazy. And I might be wrong when it's all said and done because all it takes is one team. But Locke quietly had a really good Senior Bowl, had an okay combine, but was awesome in the meetings with teams, and then blew everyone away at his pro day. Haskins has done well, but he hasn't stolen that, hey, I'm the number 2 hands down guy. Locke started for 3.5 years, played 4 years at Missouri, has seen all sorts of offenses. And if you look at what the Giants have drafted historically, it's sure things. Dave Gettleman doesn't like to roll on a thing that he's not sure. This guy has a body of work, has the body type, and I think Locke might actually fit the Giants more than Haskins, who started 1 year in college and is still a bit of a prospect.
Wow. I mean, if they come back with a quarterback that might not be on the top 3 of many people's
It's true.
mock draft boards, again, you just what fans here read and fans talk about, but I don't know. I mean, this is also a fan base that went nuts when Porzingis got drafted here in this town, and obviously we saw how that all worked out. Let's talk a few more minutes left here with Peter Schrager, Good Morning Football, also Fox as well. What are you hearing about Russell Wilson? I mean, the April 15th is a deadline. I mean, this is not something that just turned around and shocked John Schneider. I mean, this is something that the organization has been planning for. They knew this day would be coming, and Russell had such a phenomenal year last year. Does this get done by April 15th?
He was awesome last year. In a year that everyone thought they'd go 4-12, they go to the playoffs. I think John Schneider has not only known this is coming for this offseason, this has been several offseasons in the making. They've been saving their money. I don't know if they're ready for some deadline being leaked to the media, though. And April 15th is the first day they go to voluntary. Of course, you want to have Russell there. But deadlines do spurn action. And if you're asking, the Seahawks to get a deal done in the next 2 weeks, I'm not sure they operate that way. And training camp is another thing. Let's get this done before then. The question is, what leverage does Russell Wilson have? Is he not going to show up for voluntaries? All right, we've seen that before. Is he not going to show up to training camp? Because that's when this gets really ugly. That's when this gets really hairy. And you want to talk way out of left field. When you have Jimmy Fallon sprinkling out, so we heard rumors you might be interested in going to the Giants, when that was really not like a national story at all. That doesn't come from out of nowhere. Jimmy Fallon doesn't bring it. So I'm wondering, conspiracy theorist I am, reporter I am, who plants that with Jimmy Fallon out of nowhere? It's certainly not the Seahawks, and he's certainly not clicking Pro Football Talk all day long.
Ciara.
So I wonder.
Ciara?
I wonder how that even gets to a Jimmy Fallon. And Russell laughed it off and ha, but that was the first I'd heard of Russell Wilson to New York. Like, what? Like Russell, and that was one of the 4 questions they asked Russell Wilson when he's on Jimmy Fallon. It came out of nowhere.
Well, and as we all know, and I let everyone know the first hour, these are all pre-interview questions are brought up. I mean, like these things are all like these are the.
What would you like us to talk
through,
about?
Pretty much. I mean, these things are they're not totally planned. I mean, there are some off-the-cuff moments for these things, but Jimmy Fallon, is he tampering?
That's what I'm saying. Was he at dinner with Kingsbury and McVay?
Hey, look, Kimmel cost Magic like $250.
That's true.
It's true.
Because he did the whole wink thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
About Paul George, who never ended up going.
Did he have to pay the fine after he didn't even go?
Yeah.
I think he's still.
Of course. Yeah. Ask the poll question of Peter Schrager here.
All right, Peter Schrager. Russell Wilson has said he wants to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, who deserves to be the highest paid quarterback.
Deserves.
Is
the key word here. Not
to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
Give him the choice.
Russell Wilson, the man who's making the demand.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers, the man who is highest paid per year average. Tom Brady, the GOAT. Drew Brees, first ballot Hall of Famer, maybe Mount Rushmore quarterback. Or Patrick Mahomes.
I'm a big Mahomes guy, and originally my first thought is you go with the MVP. But Brady has never done it yet. Brady has never been that guy to say, you know what, once and for all, let me get mine. I think Tom Brady, one final contract, breaks the bank and says, this is for all my years of taking a discount. Sorry, guys, I'm getting mine. I think Tom Brady deserves the most.
But what is that number?
38. Ooh. 38 over 3 years.
You know what it should be? The number should be the number of the Super Bowl that he first won for them.
Oh.
38.
Woo!
I thought
That's
you were
historian.
I was going to say the most recent.
Pardon me, hold on a minute.
36.
It was 30. My bad.
36.
Duh. It was 30.
6.
Was it 36?
Yeah.
36
So
in New
it's
Orleans.
36
New
million.
Orleans, yeah.
I was going to say the
36.
And it's
latest
almost
one.
perfect. It's just a
53.
little more.
But it should be a 2-year deal, 36 and 37.
That's right, 53.
Back to back, like you did in those Super Bowls. That's the starter.
There you go.
And then he should add an incentive.
I like this.
Incentive-based material
For
every other. The amount should be for every other
love
Super
it.
Bowl that he won.
What's
all the
the
way up to
area-
53.
What's the area code in Ann Arbor? 734?
734.
Somehow work that in there too.
Yeah. Work it in there too.
Somehow.
Oh, well, there you go. It starts with the first Super Bowl he won, 36.
I love that. And nothing less.
And then 37, 2-year deal, back to back. How do you like me now?
Hey,
Yes.
Don Yee, we just did your work for you.
That's
You know,
right.
you know who makes $36 and $53 million? His wife, Giselle.
Who
That's
cares?
right, I know.
Unrelated.
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 Talk about me.
So, speaking of you, where are you headed after this?
I'm going to be hanging out with my son, 2 years old.
What's his name?
Mel, M-E-L, like the great Mel Brooks.
Is that what you named him after? Mel Brooks?
We like the name Mel. And Mel, I don't want to say
Mel
after.
Feldman, by the way. I mean, Mel Schrager. Geez, Feldman. Mel Schrager, by the way, sounds like somebody that I'd go to Nate and Al's with.
Absolutely. And I'm sure he will be going to Nate and Al's first trip to L.A.
Mel
We're taking him there.
Schrager.
Is that not a great name?
Is it
belongs
short
on the
for-
corner.
Is it just straight Mel or short for Melvin?
Not Melvin? Mel.
Okay, so your 2-year-old son, Mel,
Yeah.
and you will be going.
One of these daddy and me type deals. I mean, it's cool.
Soak it in.
I'm excited.
That is amazing.
It's awesome. I love. Everyone's like, "Oh, fatherhood." I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's Don Bowie's saying his first pitch Yankee Stadium is 4:00.
Is that right? Should we do that? No.
It's a beautiful day here in New York City.
It sounds like a lot of work.
It's a beautiful. Well, I mean,
Just stick
what
'em-
time?
Getting over to the
What time do you
Bronx
wake up every day,
I wake up at 4 a.m. every day.
dude?
Eastern, 1 a.m. your time.
You look like you're in great shape.
Trying.
I mean, you work out in the afternoon or
Yes,
something like that?
if I can get to that, yes.
Can you imagine 4 a.m? Could you do that every day?
The summer I worked on a lobster boat, we got up at 3, and it was brutal.
The bedroom? You were dropping bedrooms in the water? Is that what you're doing? You don't even know what I'm talking about?
Dropping bedrooms.
Yeah,
in the
you never
water.
saw the bedroom? Isn't that what they call the cage that you put in the water
No,
to catch
we just
the
called
lobsters?
it. We just called it a trap.
What was that called? Deadliest Catch, that show? I like that show.
Yeah.
gosh.
That was a 3 a.m. situation.
Am I wrong? Tell me about
That's
it.
where the lobster goes.
Oh my God, you're
What is
listening
that
like
from?
I'm crazy.
What is that from?
Oh my God.
Wait, he's just nodding.
He doesn't know anything.
it's
I
just
don't even know how I'm looking at him. I'm looking at him like he's Ebert or Siskel. It's ridiculous. The pride of Emory University, Peter
Yeah.
Schrager, at P. Schrags on Twitter. Check out Good Morning Football every single day at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, and I look forward to having you
Can't wait. Nashville. It's going to be awesome.
with the draft.
It's gonna
what
be
are you doing
amazing.
night one? Are you
I think I'm doing a little
roaming or
preview
roving?
night 1 and then
Okay.
night 2 and night 3. But Good Morning Football is every morning from Nashville, so we're excited.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Look forward to that. At P. Schrags on Twitter. Peter Schrager going to go hang out with Mel in a
my guy.
Daddy and Me class.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.